Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Harne podcast. My name is Raghavendra Harne, and on today's episode, we are going to talk with Mr. Dinesh Jegatheesan. He has graduated from the Schulich School of Business at York University in Canada in the year 2021 and is now working as a senior manager in the domain of finance strategy and transformation. In this episode, Dinesh describes his experience at Schulich, the reason behind him leaving a government job in India and pursuing an MBA in Canada, and balancing his life as a student, a son, a husband, and a father. So, if you are somebody who is thinking about pursuing an MBA from Schulich or are an MBA student currently, this episode will be especially valuable for you. Now, before we begin, I would like to take a moment to request you to subscribe to this channel if you are watching this on YouTube, or leave us a 5-star rating if you are listening to this on an audio platform. The episode with Dinesh begins now. Thank you so much, Dinesh, for doing this. How are you doing?
Thanks, Raghav. I'm doing well, and I hope you're doing well as well. Uh, Thanks for having me here on this show, and a big hi to everyone there whom I'm speaking to virtually. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us your time. So, Dinesh, please start by telling us which part of India are you from, what your schooling has been like. Tell us a little bit about that.
I come from a southern province in India called Tamil Nadu, and
Mhm.
the city from which I come in is Madurai. My hometown is famous for two things. One is the jasmine flower, and the second one is the Meenakshi Amman temple.
Uh-huh.
And I'm in fact proud to be associated with Jasmine in a way that my father is involved in a business in which we sell jasmine flower for commission. And once we sell the flowers with the leftover flower, whatever it is, the unsold part, it goes to the factory and we extract essence out of it and we export it to some of the European countries
Oh,
where the raw materials are being used as the one of the important ingredients for manufacturing perfumes.
oh, that sounds lovely. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you must be very inspired. Is that the reason why you decided to go into a business school?
Not exactly. In fact, right from my childhood, I was not very fond of or closely associated with my dad's business.
Mhm.
So after a certain point in life, I felt that there needs to be some change in that direction, and that's what triggered this thought in my mind that yes, I need to do MBA. Otherwise, this has
Okay.
nothing to do with what my dad has been doing for like say 50 years.
Oh, so anyway, I fast forward over there, but
Yeah.
talk me through after school. So most Indians decide to do engineering after school. So did you also decide to do become an engineer after you finished high school?
Yes, I'm not an exception. But there is an interesting story around this.
Please.
So, when I just completed my high school, my dad wanted me to become a lawyer because by qualification, he's a lawyer. Even though he's
Mhm.
actively involved in the business, by qualification, he's a lawyer. And my dad wanted me to get into law.
Mhm.
And exactly around that point in time, there was a very huge kind of fight between two gangs. So I would term it as a gang war kind of thing in the law college in Tamil Nadu.
Mhm.
And the media in Tamil Nadu started telecasting this gang war throughout a day. So
Oh.
that's when my mom stepped in and she said, "No, no, I'm having only one son, so I'm not going to take this, risk of putting him into the law school and my son just roaming around with stick in his hand like this when I see him on TV some other day." So she said, "So this is the reason I'm not going to send him to the law school,
Mhm.
and I wanted him to become an engineer." So when I was say 18 or 19 years old, honestly, I did not have a lot of information about how how the life would be in the future or what kind of career would really fit into my personality.
Mhm.
So I just had to go with whatever suggestions I received without doing a lot of groundwork on understanding and choosing the best one for me. So finally, between my dad and my mom won, and that's how I joined the engineering college. I did my specialization in information technology. At that point, when I joined engineering in 2005, IT was at its boom because we did
Uh,
not have recession.
mhm.
But when I graduated out, the situation changed altogether. Just like
Ah,
how situation was normal when I started my MBA, and by the time I finished, we were at the peak of COVID, right? So it was exactly a similar case when I did my undergrad as well.
mhm.
And when I graduated out, I came out with a job offer from Cognizant Technology Solutions.
That's
Initially,
great.
the plan was to just proceed with the IT industry.
Mhm.
But later, again, a discussion came up in my family when we thought that so getting into a government job, though it would be challenging, but that has always been, a dream and passion for like millions of Indians every year. We can see millions of Indians appearing for this government exams every year.
Mhm.
And yeah, we decided, okay, why don't I give it a try? If things don't work out, then always I can go back to the IT sector. And I attempted the Institute for Banking Personnel Selection exam.
The
And in the very
IBPS.
first attempt, yeah, IBPS,
Okay.
correct. And in the very first attempt, I was fortunate enough to get through. And I had offers from three or four different public sector banks. And finally, I chose one among them and I started my professional career with that bank.
Wow, that's you are very fortunate, but I think you're playing it down. It must have taken a lot of studies and hard work on your part to crack that exam because the competition is very tough for IBPS exam. But tell me about Cognizant. What was your experience over there? Did you join as a developer? Did you join as a QA? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I did not join Cognizant at all. I only had the job offer. When
Okay,
I received the join-in date from Cognizant, I was preparing for the government exams. So I tried to defer my joining date by like a couple of months, and the initial joining date was around October, November 2009. I tried to push that a bit to play it safe. So what if I don't crack the government exam, right? So I tried to
correct.
push it by 3 or 4 months, and unfortunately, when the results came out, I achieved the minimum required cutoff score in the IBPS exam.
Mhm.
But so that was the first time when Indian government was trying a common exam for all the banks together. So there
Oh,
were some issues in the process as such, and a few candidates who appeared for the first or second bank, they kept on applying for the subsequent banks as well.
mhm.
So the candidates who were ahead of me in terms of ranking, though I scored a good rank, those candidates had 5 or 6 different offers, because of which I couldn't crack the first few banks that came up with the interview notification. So that process extended beyond what we initially thought. I was put on wait list. Then my name came in for interview from the second wait list. So it took close to 7 or 8 months since when we received the IBPS results. So unfortunately, no IT company would wait for like 7 or 8 months to have a candidate, right? So
Correct.
I tried to defer that offer for 2 3 months. Then after that, I couldn't hold on to it, so I let it go. And after almost 7 8 months, I just joined Union Bank of India.
Okay, nice. So, like you said, there was a boom in IT, then there was a crash. Obviously, the crash of 2008 happened. You must have graduated in 2009 and you cleared the government exam, which is like a dream job for a lot of candidates in India. You started your job services in a bank. What was your starting position in the bank?
Yeah, my starting position was probationary officer, and so though I come in from this South Indian province of Tamil Nadu, my
Mhm.
first place of posting was Delhi, which is
Oh,
close to 2,500 kilometers away from my hometown. And when I went to Delhi to join on my first role, I was I was shocked to see that the culture was entirely different there. The food habits were different there. The
correct.
climate was totally different there because I have never experienced a temperature less than 19 or 20 degrees until that point in time.
Mhm.
Whereas winters in Delhi were like 3 degrees, 4 degrees.
Yeah.
So it was actually a cultural shock for me. But however, I was very fortunate to have a very good team there,
Mhm.
and a lot of people really supported me to learn the language. Banking is a profession where you need to interact with hundreds of customers day in day out. And my first place of posting was a kind of semi urban branch. So it is not a
Okay.
metro branch, it was a kind of semi urban branch. in that case, you really need to have some hold on the local language in order to conveniently communicate with the people.
Correct.
And I had some difficulty there initially, but my team was very supportive. They helped me learn the language, and I had some health issues as well initially. They helped me with the treatment. Was able to successfully overcome that, and I stayed in Delhi for close to 5-6 years. After that, upon promotion, I just got transferred to Chennai, which is the capital of my province, and I worked there for close to 3 years before I started my MBA.
Oh, that's nice. And during this time, what was happening in your personal life? Like, did you obviously after getting the government job, your parents must have, started talking about your marriage and, they're asking you to whether you have a girl in your life or should we find someone for you?
Yeah,
Can
it
you
was
tell me a
not
little
them
bit
who
about that?
started this actually. I would say it was me who started this conversation.
Oh.
And yeah, even during my college days, my parents were aware that, yeah, I am really, in a relationship with a girl, and
Mhm.
she's my wife now. Uh, this conversation happened by the time I was almost, planning my transfer from Delhi to Chennai. So
Mhm.
just like 1 year before that, all the discussion came up. So both the families met with each other. They agreed to get us married,
Mhm.
and I married my wife in 2015. And in 2016, I just got my transfer and I came back to Chennai. But for that 1 year, both of us were staying in Delhi together. My wife was working in an attached office to the Home Ministry, and I
Oh.
was
Mhm.
continuing with the same bank.
All right. And what was the designation of your wife?
My wife was working as a data engineer. So yeah, but I don't want to specifically name that organization, but
That's
that
okay.
is related to intelligence gathering kind of activity.
All right.
Yeah.
So then 2015 you got married and 2016 you came to Chennai. Did your wife move along with you or she was working in Delhi when you came to Chennai?
My wife was carrying our first kid at that time, and
Mhm.
so she left Delhi a few months before I left. And in that short gap, when I had this extended stay in Delhi, that's
Mhm.
when this demonetization was announced. And
Oh,
that is a different story altogether. I think we need one full episode of your podcast to discuss all those experiences during demonetization.
speaking about demonetization, I think this is a good time to talk about a perception which exists in, I don't know, worldwide or especially in India. I know it is true. People think that people in government banks, they don't work as hard as, let's say, people in the private sector. And you must be familiar with the jokes that anytime you go to the bank, it's a lunch hour. So I know it is a false perception. People in banks work really hard, but the people who think that way, what would you like to tell them?
You are correct. So, in any industry you may consider, there would be like 50% of the population really working hard, lifting the entire industry, lifting the entire organization. But there would be this another 50%, who would put in very little efforts, very little or no efforts, in fact.
Mhm.
But this is the nature in almost all the organization, and just because the employees of a public sector undertaking or an employee of the government of India or the provincial governments, thus just because they get a fixed salary and guaranteed employment until 60 years of age,
Correct.
public generally come out with this comment. So their future is secure, they have a fixed earning. So there is no incentive to make them, or there is no way to punish them if they don't really work. But as I said before, it is just like a half of the people who always would be really hardworking category, and the other would fall under the just the one who always has leisure at work. I
Mhm.
agree there is certain population like that, but we cannot generalize industry on basis of what we really see in few occasions. So
Correct.
demonetization is one such example when you'll not believe we were held hostage by the crowd on one night, and we had to just get the support or help of police to get out of that branch.
My God.
And yeah, my shirt was torn on one of those days, and those 90 days were just like a lifetime experience. Each and every day in those 3 months are really lifetime experiences.
Wow. That sounds horrifying. People holding you hostage and you had to call the
Yeah.
police to get you out. Sounds terrible. But from your banking experience, you worked for close to 6 years at the bank?
Uh, Precisely, it is 7 years.
7 years. So, what were the lessons that you learned? Life lessons? Could you tell me, say, three life lessons which are helping you even now?
Mm, the first one is you really need to understand the needs and the expectations of your customer. It is not just for the bank's business, for any business it may be.
Mhm.
It is easily said than done, but you know, if you meet with like 200 or 300 customers a day, all those 200 customers may be in different stages in their life, and they may
Correct.
need different kind of support. They may need different kind of advices.
Mhm.
So we must precisely understand the need of each and every customer. That is very important for the business. Second one, there will always be challenges to test your honesty. Whatever the situation may be, you really need to be honest, and the honesty will really reward you at some point later.
So you mean to
Third
say
lesson,
short term versus long term thinking? So maybe being dishonest could pay you in the short term, but in the long
exactly,
term, it'll hurt you.
exactly.
All right.
And the third one was that it is always necessary to have a perfect balance. Perfect balance is really difficult to achieve, but at least an optimal balance between the professional life and personal life.
Mhm.
Public sector units in India, or at least banks, the Saturdays are working days in banks.
Correct.
So when I used to visit office during Saturdays, sometimes it would go beyond 6 p.m., 7 p.m. And my wife, as I told you before, is from the IT industry,
Correct.
where the weekends, especially Saturdays, would be holidays, and there would always be some kind of unhappiness in the family, and
Yep.
that is very important to you need to really maintain a good balance between the personal life and professional life.
That's profound advice, and that's really good advice. Thank you for that. So
Yeah.
now, if we take a step back, at this stage in your life, you had a government job, you were married, you had a baby, and then at this point, what prompted you to think about doing an MBA, especially not from India, from abroad, from Canada? So what prompted you, or what made you decide to do an MBA at this stage in your life?
Yeah, when I decided I will be doing my MBA, I was almost like 7 years in that bank, and
Mhm.
after a certain years, I was just doing the same thing again and again. And when this realization hit my mind, that's when I decided, yeah, so I need to change the direction. I need to do something different. And MBA was an obvious choice for me. But
Mhm.
if it would be MBA, which college, which country, all those questions came up subsequently. When I was thinking about pursuing an MBA, I always doing it in global universities was my first preference.
Okay.
For this important reason that I would have a diverse cohort, and I would
Correct.
have batchmates coming in from different countries, different industries, and that's when you get to learn the best practices of each industry and each country, right? It is not only the academic subject that we are going to discuss with friends in the class. We discuss local
Yes.
politics, right? We discuss different types of industries,
Mhm.
and so a lot of other things happen between the cohort members, right, apart from academics.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was the very very important reason for me to decide that yeah, I will have to do my MBA at a global school. And I
Okay.
applied for a couple of schools in US and a couple of schools in Canada. I was waitlisted in one of the B schools in US, but
Okay.
I couldn't secure a scholarship there. And doing MBA in US was much more expensive than
Correct.
what I spent finally with Schulich, right?
Mhm.
So as I did not have scholarship, that was a kind of difficult choice for me to you know choose. So that's when I decided, okay, yeah, let me go to Canada. And Schulich is one of the renowned names in Canada,
Correct.
and just take my career from there.
Okay. You said MBA was an obvious choice. Now, with a background in engineering. Your wife was also in data engineering at that point in time. Why did you not consider doing an MS? Why was MBA so obvious?
Uh, I also wanted to, do a different kind of role or just make a kind of industry or career shift. And in today's situation, I think most of the candidates, at least I would say 50% of the candidates that pursue MBA,
Mhm.
this would be one of their main objectives, that doing a career shift or doing a role shift.
Yeah.
That is the reason I said MBA would be an obvious choice for me.
So you had a good idea in mind what you wanted to do before you entered the MBA.
Yes, so in fact, I had some good idea on which particular industry I wanted to continue my career, but
Mhm.
I was not very clear about the role. I was just trying, different kinds of roles within the finance industry when I started applying for jobs and attending job interviews during the last semester of my MBA.
Okay. So tell us a little about your Schulich admission process. How did the interview go? What was so different and unique in your profile, which you think led to you getting an admission at Schulich? Apart from your GMAT score, like you wrote GMAT or GRE?
GMAT.
You wrote the GMAT. Okay, so obviously you must have had a good score. What apart from your GMAT score you think you possessed, which helped you in your admission?
Um, I would say it was my work experience, right?
Mhm.
I started my MBA in India. So Schulich has this MBA in India program in which candidates do their first year in India and then they come to the main campus in Canada for the second year.
Yes.
So I was part of that program, and very few candidates, and maybe I don't remember anyone else apart from me coming in from the banking industry in my batch.
Mhm.
So someone coming in from the banking industry, especially public sector bank, with almost 7 8 years of work experience, that really helped me secure an admission at Schulich.
Correct.
And if you ask me about the other special, aspects of my profile, so I was volunteering by teaching orphan students in Chennai. So
Oh,
I was actively involved in designing a curriculum for mathematics for
that's
class 7
wonderful.
and class 8 in that school.
Mhm.
And as I told you before, I was also actively involved in cycling. I'm using the term I was involved because yeah, I'm trying to do that in after coming to Canada for the past 1 year, but I'm not able to get my hands on a bicycle because of this supply chain shortage. But yeah, until 1 year before, I was really active in the endurance cycling. So these additional qualities, I think that also really helped me, which made me stand, apart from other candidates.
That's nice. And you applied at in round one, round two of
I played in
admission.
round one. Yeah.
Round one. And can you tell us a little bit about the interview process? Like, how was it? Uh, what kind of questions were you asked? Can you elaborate a little on that, please?
Yeah, it was almost like 3 years back, so I don't remember it very precisely.
Mhm.
But I can just tell you one thing. So I told you that I was actively involved in designing a curriculum for mathematics for class 7, class 8 students in an orphanage.
Correct.
So when a discussion came up, on this particular aspect of my profile, I
Mhm.
just told my interviewer that this was the thing I did, and so spontaneously, he just asked for someone from that orphanage to whom my interviewer could speak and verify my contribution. So I was not
Oh.
really, I was not expecting this kind of follow-up question from the interviewer.
Mhm.
But I did not remember his phone number readily on top of my mind. So I
Oh.
just asked for a minute pause from the interviewer,
Mhm.
and I told him that I don't remember his phone number readily.
Mhm.
If you could give me a minute, I can check my mobile phone's contact list and I can give you the number. And I gave him the mobile number of the administrator of that orphanage.
Okay.
But yeah, later I don't know whether they really spoke to him to verify my credentials or not. I'm not sure about it. But yeah, so it is always important to be true during such important phases of your life. So it
Yeah,
again connects back to the previous answer that I gave, my experiences or learnings from my banking
it's
work
always
experience. So
always be
yes,
honest.
yes.
I think they would have verified because during my interview, they asked me, I told them I used to run a YouTube channel earlier, and he immediately asked me the name of my YouTube channel and browsed and opened my YouTube channel and verified that this person really has a YouTube channel or not. So
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
think that's good advice. You should always be honest during your interview process because they do check on that. All right. So why then my next question to you is why did you decide to go for Schulich India and not Schulich Canada campus over here?
So you mentioned this, right? That my family was there in India already. We had our elder daughter already
Yeah.
born, and she was around 2 years at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was actually carrying our second kid, my son, who is
Mm-hmm.
2 years old now. So doing the first year in India really gave me an opportunity to stay in India for one extra year and spend some time with family whenever I got a chance. And in fact, that happened as well. I had a couple of long vacation, and it was easy for me to just book a bus at the last minute and travel from Hyderabad to Chennai. That was the main reason.
Okay. I remember you had your son born during the first year when we were in
Yeah,
class.
he's a COVID
Uh,
batch kid.
COVID batch kid. And apart from that, like when you came to Schulich Canada campus, you spent 1 year at Schulich India, you spent 1 year at the Kiel campus over here. What was the difference which you noticed? Were there any pros, cons between Schulich India and Schulich Kiel campus over here?
I would say the candidates that start their first year in Canada definitely they have some upper hand in terms of getting a kickstart into the job market, whether it is the job search or in fact landing the job or even the internship opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely have an upper hand, but on the other side, as I said, if candidates really have some personal reasons for staying that extra 1 year in India, then yeah, they can choose that. But if the candidates don't have a specific reason why they should stay for that extra time in India, my recommendation would be to start the first year from Canada, because
Mm-hmm.
that would give them some leisure time at the beginning to build their networks, which is an important part of an MBA.
All right. And you know this very well that all the people who reach out to alums from Schulich ask us about internships and how to secure an internship. So if you could shed some light on why an internship is important, how do we secure it, and from Schulich India, how difficult or easy is it to get an internship?
Internship, in my opinion, will certainly help you land a good job.
Mhm.
No second opinion about that.
Why do you say
Uh,
that?
because you so once you work for say 3 or 4 months with the company,
Mhm.
so you naturally create a lot of evidences on your capabilities and your potential, right? So everything
Correct.
is just out displayed in the open.
Mhm.
So that will certainly help once you complete your education. A lot of employers, they would prefer to go back to the same candidates that did
Mhm.
internship with them and just give them a full-time job offer. And
Correct.
my experience has been that in my cohort, the
Mhm.
2021 cohort,
Mhm.
most of the candidates who had a job offer in hand before graduating were the ones who did internship. But
Okay.
having said that,
Mhm.
so I would say it is also not the end of the road if you don't land an internship, which was the case for most of our India cohort students.
Yes.
Uh, Internships will certainly make the job search process and job offers easy, but it is not the end of the road. There are a lot of other opportunities outside in the market as well.
Correct. And from Schulich, India, do you remember anybody getting an internship opportunity while they were at the India campus?
I cannot recall any of my friends getting an internship opportunity when we were in India. But
Mhm.
yeah, some of them really worked for startups.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it a full-fledged internship, but
Mhm.
just for an in-hand experience of how a Canadian work culture would look like, or what would be the expectations from the Canadian market from an employer,
Mhm.
uh, from an employer perspective. So those things are something which I think my friends learned, but none of them landed a full-fledged internship opportunity when we did our first year in India.
In India. But having said that, I mean, we are making it sound like internship. If you don't get an internship, it's the end of the road. All of your classmates ended up getting a job. Is that correct?
Yes,
Even though none
correct.
of them had an internship, but all of them ended up getting a job.
Yes.
That's all right. Can you tell us a little bit about the 601 program? I know you have a very special story regarding your 601 program. So if you could elaborate, what is the 601 program at Schulich and how did that help you?
Yeah, 601 program is an 8-month long capstone project
Mhm.
where a team of 5 or 6 different students come together, and they assess the company's financials, business model, everything from a holistic perspective. And the composition of the team generally is built in such a way that each candidate either had a past experience or prefer to continue their future career in a very specific specialization, say someone from marketing,
Mhm.
someone from finance, someone from consulting industry, or someone from the policy making or the public sector government
Correct.
related functions. So a
Mhm.
composition is built in such a way that a company can be assessed from a holistic perspective in reality, rather than just for doing that project for a namesake. A true value is being added both to the students as well as to the companies. So that is this 8-month long 601 project. And in my case, my current employer was my 601 client during my MBA. And they were really happy with the recommendations that we submitted. The
Mhm.
company was also independently working with leading consultants like Deloitte.
Mhm.
So some of the recommendations that my team presented to the leadership team and the recommendations that Deloitte presented to the leadership team, most of them were similar.
Wow.
So that was something which really, that enhanced our credibility as
Mhm.
an MBA graduate.
Mhm.
That enhanced our credibility, and coincidentally, my past work experience is from the finance industry, right?
Yes.
So this company is also in the financial services industry. So it was a natural match, and when they asked, yeah, they offered me a very good role, and right from the beginning, they were very much interested in what my thoughts are, what my expectations are. So
Correct.
that really gave me some comfort to continue my career in Canada with this company. That's how I landed my first job here in Canada.
That's nice. That's a really nice story. And that is a big boost for the 601 program as well. We actually need some stories like that because 601, if you ask people from a batch, it's not a very popular program. People, because it is tough and people are not very fond of it, but you got your job through your 601 program. So I guess in the end, it was all worth it.
Yes, but I would say there are a lot of moving pieces in that 601 experience. One
Yes.
is the team dynamics, and
Mhm.
the second one is the kind of support and cooperation you get from your clients.
Yes.
The second part is really not under our control. We can't do much about it, except that when you do that screening process, or when you accept applications from those companies to
Mhm.
be a participant in the 601 program,
Yes.
some kind of quality checks or measures should be established there. So that is the only way I see in which you can control the second point. But to my first point, which is about team dynamics,
Mhm.
most of my friends have complained about this. But unfortunately, this is the reality which we are going to face for the many coming years of your professional
Exactly.
life.
Exactly.
So it is a bitter pill, I agree, but you need to learn to live with that. So
Yeah.
how can you handle that situations better, or how do you cope up with that? Or so that's how a leader emerges from a team, right? You need
Correct.
to learn ways to handle these things better. And so I think so to my point number one on this team dynamics, though it is a bitter experience, but that is essential for the professional life in Canada.
That's very correct. Even I feel the same way about 6-7, because in real life, you will be thrown into an organization where you will not be able to even pick the members of your team. Here, at least you have that choice with you.
Right.
But in real life, you will be a part of an organization where you will most likely not know many people, and you have to build a rapport with them, and you have to get your objectives done with those people. So it is a good learning experience in my humble experience
Okay.
as well.
Yeah.
So my next question to you is, you said while doing your MBA, your main focus was doing a career switch. And a lot of candidates who are thinking about pursuing an MBA have that thought in mind. So for them, what do you recommend? How do you go about making that change in their career? What is the best way? Is there like you decided, you were undecided, you thought that you wanted to go into finance, but you were not decided on the role in finance. So
Yes.
how can
Yes.
we get that clarity during an MBA, and how difficult or easy it is to make that switch post MBA?
Yeah, I'll tell you something that one of our professors told. I'm not sure
Mhm.
whether you remember this or not. So there are three different parts of making this switch. One is
Uh-huh.
a country switch. The second is the industry switch, and the
Mhm.
third is the role switch.
Correct.
So the least you do, the safest it is. If you are planning to make all the three switches, so naturally students who want to pursue MBA in a different country, they are
Mhm.
already making a country switch, which is the
Correct.
implicit part of that goal, right?
Mhm.
But apart from that, if you really want to make both in an industry switch as well as a role switch, it
Mhm.
is going to be extremely difficult. But
Correct.
having said that, it is not impossible. I'm using the term, it is difficult. You need to build the right connections, you need to develop the right skill set, you need to clearly identify the roles that you plan to get into. With all these planning and proper connections and support ecosystem, I think anything is achievable. But when I started my MBA, I knew for sure that I'll be continuing my career in finance, or
Mhm.
a kind of strategy that involves finance, which is the role I'm currently working in, right?
Yeah.
But if you had asked me whether I was clear about the role during the last semester of my MBA, I was not.
Mhm.
In fact, I was trying different kinds of roles within finance. My past experience with the bank in India was as a credit analyst and a credit underwriter.
Okay.
Whereas, so when we come to a new country, it is relatively easy to just identify a role similar to your past experiences.
Yes.
So I did so to play it safe. I also had that option open, and
Mhm.
I was trying three or four different things. And finally, as I told you before, my 601 experience really played a very big role in helping me get this opportunity with my current
Yes.
employer.
So, with your previous bank experience, you said you wanted to enter banks as well. And the big five banks over here, I'm sure you must have tried applying over there. How easy, difficult, what is that process like to get into a big five bank at Canada?
Uh, so as you may know, banking in Canada, like 90 or 95% of banking in Canada, I would say, is controlled by these big five players.
Correct.
Uh, it is not very difficult, honestly, to try and get into this one of these big five banks.
Mhm.
But the important part in that application process, which we really need to nail it correctly, is
Mhm.
building the appropriate networks. These big five banks in Canada, they really have a very strong brand name and a brand
Correct.
pull.
Mhm.
So for any role that they come out with, if you see, there would be like hundreds of applications naturally being submitted for each available role.
Yes.
In that case, it is very important to reach out to someone. Ideally, it would be someone who is in that team for which the vacancy is posted.
Correct.
Build connection with them,
Mhm.
make them understand your past experiences, your future goals, objectives, or aspirations, and once you get to understand these things better, and if your job application is being pushed through that internal candidate with a
Mhm.
referral,
Mhm.
I think your chance of landing an interview opportunity is way higher, because that's how I was able to land an interview opportunity for two or three roles I applied for one of those big five banks.
Correct.
But my experience also says that if you're able to find that connection right and put on your application,
Mhm.
they'll tell you the exact expectations of their team. So what is the activity that they are planning to conduct over the next few months, or what is that special project for which they are coming up with this additional hire.
Correct.
Once you get hold of that information, you can use
Mhm.
a lot of that information during your interview conversations, and that
Yes.
is really going to help you in terms of finding the final offer with that organization particularly.
All right. So do you mean to say that it is not just an interview process for the organization, but you should also find out on your end whether that role will be a good fit for you or not, considering the unique past experience which you have.
Exactly, because when you have this kind of conversation with your network or the
Mhm.
person who is exactly working in that team, and
Mhm.
when you share your past experiences and your skills during that conversation, it would naturally come up whether this particular role is a perfect match for you and the company, or is it there is a misalignment in that will come up during that conversation. And I have
Yes.
had one or two such conversations in which the person whom I contacted clearly told me I was not a perfect fit for that role.
Oh, that's actually good to know beforehand. Or you application is selected for the interview, and then you later find out during one of the rounds that it is not actually a good fit. So if you come to know that beforehand, it saves a lot of time for you and
Yes,
the
and
organization as well.
exactly, and you'll be mentally relieved rather than going through that entire process and finally getting to know that you are not the right fit for that role and you are
Right.
rejected, right? So
Correct.
that saves you some time, and that is also a lot of mental relief rather than undergoing the entire stressful process.
That's very correct. So you mentioned networking and reaching out to people and talking to the team members if you can. So what is the best way to reach out to such team members? Because you will not always know that this person is the one whose team is hiring, or this person is the one who is the manager who will be hiring. So how can you reach out to these people? How did you go about doing that?
Let me be very honest about this.
Mhm.
It is not that easy to directly reach out to the hiring manager, right?
Correct.
95% of the times you're not going to speak to the hiring manager directly.
Yeah.
But it is not that difficult to find out someone who really works in that role. Could be in a different team.
Mhm.
And in one of the experiences that I have had, I reached out to a person working in a bank
Mhm.
and who was in a role that I was targeting.
Correct.
And though this person was not directly able to help me because they were not hiring for his team,
Mhm.
he connected me with some other person who was
Oh,
actually a part of the team that was hiring for this particular role.
that's
So
nice.
I got an access to someone from the same team.
Mhm.
But if we just reach out to them only with the intention of taking the contact details of the hiring manager, it is going to be
Mhm.
really difficult. But
Yes.
rather, I would recommend this. The appropriate way to start your networking conversation, at least in the
Mhm.
first or
Mhm.
second conversation that you have with some of the contacts, it
Yes.
is always important to just ask them what they were doing and any interesting experiences or interesting projects that they are currently involved in,
Mhm.
right? And share more of your past experiences and your skill sets. Once someone gets to know about you a lot, then naturally they will be more comfortable in referring your candidature for a role, right?
That's
So
right.
it is very important to establish that trust first in the first or second conversation. But if
Correct.
the objective or the intent is to reach out to your contact just to take their referral to apply for a job process, that is not going to work out.
Thank you so much for that. I think that's really important because I believe networking is one of the most important aspects to find a job over here in Canada. So now that we have covered networking, can you please describe how is the interview process like, and how can the candidates prepare for a job interview over here, especially for banks or different financial roles over here?
Yeah, so in terms of the interview process, I think each individual organization has a different stages in the interview process. For example, the interview I attended for a wealth management generalist role was different from the interview that I had for a commercial banking analyst role. So we
Correct.
cannot classify all the interviews for different kinds of roles into some specific bucket.
Mhm.
Having said that, I personally think any job search should first start with some questions to oneself,
Mhm.
internal understanding of what the desire is, what the objective is, or a self-assessment of the skills that we possess. So once we have a good understanding of that, my suggestion would be to come up with a list of your 6 or 7 different skills or strengths, and have a couple of lines of stories for each of those skills, because that's how I approach my interview process. When you talk about your job search or the interview process,
Mhm.
it starts with the resume building
Correct.
and preparing statement of your cover letters, right,
Cover
with
letters.
the statement of objectives or whatever, however you may call it.
Mhm.
So for these things, self assessment or a reflection is very important.
That's right.
That's when most of the candidates they get confused, and they try like 20 or 30 different options. But my approach was very simple: just have 4 or 5 different organizations in your list
Uh-huh.
of desired companies,
Mhm.
and have 3 roles, 3 top roles for each of those organizations. So at
Correct.
the end of the day, the combination would come to around like 15 or 16 different roles, and
Yes.
that should be our target. That's how I approached my job search process. And in fact, I was able to secure an interview call from each of those big 5 banks.
That's
Though
wonderful.
I'm not continuing with one of those big 5 players now, but
Mhm.
I had an opportunity to be a part of the interview process in each of those big 5 banks. So once you build that list of your skill sets, then then you can really shape your resume, a clearly objective based resume that talks about your past achievements, rather than, I mean, past achievements in the sense, the results, rather than what you
Correct.
just performed or what you did. That is
Okay.
very important in building a resume. And once the resume is ready, just the candidates, I would suggest they have it reviewed by as many number of alums or the industry contacts that they have as possible. So
Correct.
once it goes through the review process again and again, there will be a clear evidence of that resume getting shaped up in a very clear and concise way. Once the resume is ready, then just you need to make those modifications that are very necessary to apply for a specific role. The biggest mistake, in my observation, most of the candidates do is that they just have one resume and they use the
Mhm.
same resume for all the roles and the opportunities in many industries. So,
Yeah.
which is not the right way to
Mhm.
approach the job search process.
Yeah.
So it is very important to have a tailor-made cover letter and resume for each individual role that you are targeting. That is very
That's
important.
that's really correct, and that's right. I mean, on a lighter note, I have even seen people applying to XYZ organization with a cover letter clearly mentioning the name of ABC organization, which they had used for an earlier job search. So that also
Yes.
happens. So you're very
And
right
that,
over
that would
there.
be a biggest mistake,
Yeah.
if a hiring manager or a recruiter from the
Mhm.
HR team sees the application in which you fail to change the name of the
Okay.
organization, that can be the biggest disaster I can ever imagine.
Correct. You are screened out right then and there.
Yeah.
So, can you please also elaborate a little bit? You said you have to talk about the results on your resume, not just anything else. So, can you please elaborate a little on that? What do you mean when you say that you have to explain the results?
Sure. So when I was working on my resume, one
Mhm.
important advice that I received from my mentors was your each point, I mean each bullet point in your resume should address either of these 2 things.
Mhm.
One, you did something. What was the result of that?
Correct.
If you are not able to exactly quantify all that you did, because which could be a case. For example, someone coming from the non-profit background, he or she may not be always in a position to quantify the outcome of their work, right? That
Yes.
is very much a possibility.
Mhm.
So if you are not able to do that,
Mhm.
then comes the next thing. Second thing, you need to substantiate this on your resume in those two lines, why
Mhm.
only you are the right person to do or accomplish that task, why someone else couldn't have done that.
Correct.
You need to either address point one or point two in the resume. If it is
Mhm.
results based or outcome based, it is pretty straightforward. For example, if I say that I was the one who led this savings bank and current account bank accounts opening, like a campaign targeted at CASA accounts, as we call in the Indian banking terms.
Correct.
So if I just say that in my resume, I need to tell them that how many accounts are opened during that campaign, or
Yes.
whether the zone in which I worked, that was among the top three in the country or top five in the country.
Mhm.
If not that, the campaign organized in say 2018, what was our achievement and how much was the growth in 2019? What
Correct.
percentage increase we achieved in terms of number of new accounts in 2019? So these
Yes.
are different dimensions of really quantifying, quantifying the work that you really do.
Thank you so much for that. That really helps a lot of people, because people are not aware of how to make a resume in the Canadian context. They have maybe prepared, the last time I prepared my resume was after my BTech for the campus placements. And after that, I had to build my resume after coming to Canada and doing my MBA, and they were completely different. So we
Hmm.
usually set about, go about building the resume like we did after our BTech or undergraduate degree, but that is not how you're supposed to do it. Thank you so much for elaborating on that. My next question to you is, apart from MBA, did you pursue any additional degrees for getting into the field of finance?
I had a past work experience in finance, which really helped me get into the financial services industry here.
Mhm.
But at the back of my mind, I always thought about doing either a CPA or a CFA designation.
Okay.
So at a later point, as I clearly decided that it would not be exclusively the accounting path that I would choose for myself, then
Mhm.
I thought doing CFA would be a better option. I started my CFA level one in 2021,
Okay.
at the beginning of 2021, and
Mhm.
I appeared for my level one exam in July 2021. I was fortunate enough to get through CFA level one in my first attempt. But yeah, since then I have been thinking of starting with my level two, and CFA is an exam which I wouldn't say is really difficult, but it is an exam that really needs your commitment
Correct.
in terms of the number of hours of efforts you put in.
Mhm.
And I'm at this point I'm finding it difficult to bring back that commitment which I had 1 year back. But yeah, that is definitely on my list of to do things. And yeah, I hope to get through all the three levels in next 1 or 2 years.
I'm sure you'll do that. Can you also elaborate on how did that help you? How did CFA level one, that knowledge, did that help you in your job search? Did you help you in your current job, which you're doing during your interview process? How has that been beneficial to you?
uh, I would say it is not always a clear, X to Y kind of mapping.
Mhm.
There are some benefits that you really get out of such worldwide recognized credentials like CPA, CFA, or the chartered accountant kind of thing. Those are really a kind of tools that you will have, which you'll find an opportunity to apply in your profession. But the thing is, ultimately the effectiveness of that, or the ultimate result of whatever you are performing, depends on how well you are applying that tool.
Correct.
For example, in CFA, so I got to learn a good amount of economics, good amount
Yeah.
of quantitative studies,
Mhm.
statistics,
Mhm.
and I have heard about alternative investment options. But before starting with CFA level one, I never knew what those different options of alternative investments are.
Mhm.
So I got to know and understand all these things during my CFA level one. But if you ask me whether you're finding an opportunity to utilize all your knowledge and learnings on a daily basis in your current role, I
Mhm.
would say no. But I'm fairly sure that all the knowledge that we gathered during this CFA level one, level two
Uh-huh.
process, whatever it is, they are going to be helpful at some point in the future. And that will
Right.
definitely shape up the decisions that we make. That is very important.
So would you recommend that to anybody who is thinking about going into the field of finance? Would you say CFA level one is mandatory, or would you say it's a nice to have? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say it is nice to have. Again, it depends on the priorities of each and every individual.
Mhm.
For someone, say who is interested in getting into a bank in a
Mhm.
customer-facing role, I
Correct.
wouldn't say that doing CFA, really it's going to help them a lot. But for
Yes.
someone who is into corporate finance or someone who is specifically dealing with equities,
Mhm.
alternative assets, portfolio management, that is going to be really important because that will give them a fair amount of knowledge and understanding about the industry, right?
Mm.
So it depends on the priorities of each and every individual.
That's right. So, because I have seen a lot of candidates, just when they think about finance, they think about CFA, not really considering whether it will be required for the position they are applying to. So that's really helpful for that. My next question to you, Dinesh, is now you worked in India for 7 years and now you have worked in the finance industry in Canada. What are the differences which you find?
In terms of differences in the work culture, I would
Mhm.
say it is really important to appreciate the time and efforts of your teammates here.
Mhm.
In India, I won't say that these things are not prevalent in India,
Mhm.
but you need to be more conscious of these things in Canada. You
Okay.
need to value, appreciate others' time, others' efforts, and you also need to be very conscious about the language that you use for communication and the way you present yourself. So, what do I mean by this? Maybe
Yes,
if I just explain it with like a couple of examples from my
please,
experiences, then I think that would be helpful.
please do.
So, for example, my team was preparing a board presentation deck just
Mhm.
to give an overview to the board
Mhm.
on what are the important issues that we would be facing in the next few months,
Mhm.
and just to help them with a kind of support on some of those key decisions that we were planning to make, right?
Correct.
And we had a slide on 5 year outlook. It was just a trend line,
Mhm.
just to show them at a very high level how our company was heading for the next 5 years. So there was an intense argument between myself and my manager
Uh-huh.
on whether that slide should be a part of the deck or not.
Okay.
So my manager's point of view was that this particular slide, though it would give the high level overview of the next 5 years where we are heading to, it
Mhm.
was not going to help any specific decision for the next quarter or the next half year.
Okay.
So he was correct. He was
Mhm.
correct from that perspective. But I argued that board's job is not only to look for the issues or make important decisions for the next 1 or 2 quarters. They also need to see from a long term perspective what is the directional movement of the company, where we are heading to. So this was
Okay.
a kind of an intense argument between us both. And
Mhm.
finally, when this ended, I told him that so there was a huge argument because my opinion was not valid. This was a statement which I made.
Mhm.
But instead of this, he used a different term that Dinesh, I wouldn't say it was an argument, but it
Uh-huh.
was a disagreement,
Okay.
right? So for someone coming in from a non-native English
Mhm.
background
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
myself from India, right? So on the surface, both these terms would exactly sound the same without a
Correct.
lot of difference.
Mhm.
But later, I was told that when you say argument, it has a negative connotation attached to it.
Correct.
Whereas if it is a disagreement, it is the positive way of presenting the same thing.
Like we were
This was
told
one thing.
in one of our classes, you never say I have a doubt, which is
I
very
have a
common.
question, right?
Like it is very common to say in India, I have a doubt, but that's not correct. You always say I have a
I have a
question.
question. Exactly. And in another instance, when I was booking a team meeting, this was the advice that I got from my supervisor that
Mhm.
if we are booking a meeting with someone who is
Mhm.
higher in the hierarchy,
Okay.
choosing any time is fine, because
Mhm.
most of the times they are the ones who ask us to book meeting, or they are the ones who give us the deliverables or the tasks.
Mhm.
But if the meeting is with someone who is reporting into you, or
Mhm.
if it is with someone junior to you, then we need to be mindful of booking the meetings, especially when it is during the lunchtime, like
Lunch.
say 12 in the afternoon, in the
Mhm.
noon,
Mhm.
until like 1 or 1:30 p.m. So it is very important to just respect their time and privacy in that case. And
Correct.
that was also a lesson for me. So these are some small things which
Mhm.
we really don't think a lot in India. When it comes to like booking a meeting, just go ahead and book a meeting. But these are certain things which we really need to be mindful when you start working in the Canadian context.
I think it's not just in the Canadian context. Now that if we get a chance to work in India again, we would be mindful of these things no matter where we work, because
Exactly. We'll
just
be carrying those good learnings, right?
good learning. So I think we would both agree that these are the things which should be instilled in the work culture everywhere. So that would actually make the workplace a better place to work at, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And now that you have been working here for 1 year, I know your wife will be joining you over here soon. How is the transition for your kids going to be? Because they are quite young, to moving from India to Canada. How difficult is the transition going to be? Because a lot of candidates would be pondering about this question, that they have to shift their family if they decide to come to Canada for doing an MBA. So, your thoughts on that, please.
I would agree because especially when candidates think of doing MBA once they are past like 30 or 32 years of age, it is certainly going to be challenging because you need the support of the entire family behind you.
Mhm.
And in our case, as I told, when I started my MBA, my daughter was like 3 years old, and my wife was carrying our son at that time.
Mhm.
Now, as you said, they are getting ready to move into Canada, and it has been a long wait for us, and we have been expecting this to happen since 2021, early 2021.
You can blame COVID for the long wait.
Yeah, so now they are getting ready to slowly come into Canada, and uh, for them to come into Canada, especially when the winter is almost starting, is going
Yeah.
to be challenging for sure. As I told you, in South India, we have never experienced temperature below 20 or 25 degrees Celsius.
Mhm.
Climate is going to be an important challenge, and the second one is the schooling system.
Yeah.
We need to just spend some time assessing which is the closest school to our home, and what are the process and procedures around enrolling my daughter for schooling.
Correct.
And another important challenge that we expect is to find out the daycare center or the nursery school kind of setup. I
Mhm.
think it is not the government supported ones in India, sorry, in Canada.
Mhm.
We need to identify the daycares that are closest to home, where we'll be paying the fees, and my son will have to be put into the daycare, and only after that both of us can start working. So these are some of the challenges that we foresee. But yeah, I think once everyone is here, two hands are always better than just one hand, right? So I'll
Correct.
have a supporting hand from my wife as well, and yeah, we hope we'll get through this soon.
Sure. And I hope that happens pretty soon and the transition is smooth. Last question, but I think it is one of the most important questions. How did you manage to pay the fee? Because the fee for MBA is pretty high. Did you take an education loan, or did you have savings through which you paid the fee?
A portion of the fee came in from my savings.
Mhm.
I sought the support and help of my wife as well. She contributed around like 20 to 25% of my tuition fee. I
That's
got a
nice.
similar support from my dad as well. He helped me with around 20 to 25% of my tuition fee,
Mhm.
and finally I did not have the necessary financial means to pay my last semester's tuition fee. So
Okay.
that's when I had no other choice but to go for a loan. Having said that, even before I commenced my MBA, I tried to get the financial support with the help of some of the non-banking financial services company,
Okay.
because in banks in India, let it be private sector bank or a public sector bank,
Mhm.
it is really difficult for someone to get a loan beyond 7.5 lakhs without mortgaging any property.
Correct.
So as I did not have any property under my name or my
Mhm.
wife's name, we were not in a position to offer that collateral to the bank. But
Okay.
there were some non-banking financial services company that were willing to extend up to 30 35 lakh rupees, Indian rupees.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, I don't know what went wrong. So there were some eligibility issues with these non-banking financial services companies,
Okay.
and my loan application was not honored. So I was
Mhm.
not able to take a loan from India.
Okay.
When it came to the final semester, then I decided to go with Prodigy Finance. So
Okay.
I took a loan from Prodigy Finance for my last semester, and I took the loan at around, if I'm not wrong, around 5% interest rate. Right now it
Okay.
has gone up because of the interest rate increases over
Inflation.
the
Mhm.
past few quarters.
Correct.
But I took the loan for around 5%, and I have repaid almost like half of my education loan in the past 1.5 years. And I
That's
hope
wonderful.
to repay it fully by the end of the next year. Yeah.
That's wonderful. You've actually helped. This is, I think, a common question when people reach out, and this is one of the top concerns because how are you going to pay for the tuition of your MBA, right? So, thank you so much for sharing. The absolute last question to you. You took a big risk. Like you left your government job, you came over here. Now your family is going to transition, but you've managed to find a job over here, a very good job, and you've paid a lot of your tuition fee back as well. Are you happy with your decision?
Of course, for sure. If you ask me, I'm certainly happy with my decision. Uh, so, as I told you before, there are some additional challenges for someone who intends to do MBA post 30 or 32 years of age, right?
Correct. Mhm.
And apart from the support that you need to have from your family and all those risks involved on the personal side,
Mhm.
on the professional side, I also think it is really difficult to make the first employer in Canada appreciate all the work experiences you carry from India. I
Right.
won't say it is like not value, but
Mhm.
it is really difficult to convince someone that at 30 or 32 years of age, certainly a candidate would be carrying at least 8 to 10 years of work experience. It is really
Mhm.
difficult to convince the first employer in Canada that all the 8 to 10 years of work experience that the candidate brings in from India will
Mhm.
be relevant in the Canadian context.
Canadian context. Yeah.
And so because of this particular challenge, some candidates may end up with a job that is not really appreciative of all the work experiences they bring in from India or any other country in the world.
Correct.
A candidate who comes in with say 8 to 10 years of work experience may unfortunately uh, may be forced to settle with a job that expects only like 4 or 5 years of work experience. These are some of the challenges that candidates need to be aware of before they
Yes.
start their MBA, so that right from day one they can start making plans or tailor-made suggestions or options which kind of roles they can target or which organizations really value a candidate with say 7 or 8 years of work experience. But once we land into the first job, I think all the subsequent progress in the career, in those progresses, the previous 8 to 10 years of work experience will naturally come into play. But it is only in this first job that a candidate is going to find it really challenging to convince the employer of all the past work experiences.
So, based on our theme earlier, short term versus long term, there might be a short term pain, but in the long term, it's all going to pay off. right?
Yes.
All right, Dinesh. So we wish you all the best. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope you'll come again for another podcast with us.
For sure. Thanks for having me today, Raghav. It was a pleasure talking to you as well and sharing all my stories.
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best, Dinesh.
Thank you.
And that was the episode for today. If you like this episode, please press the like button and hit that bell icon. Also, kindly leave us your feedback, good or bad, in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until the next time, this is me, Raghavendra Harne, signing off. Take care.